Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Joe Tophat. Well, this year marks the 40th anniversary of my all-time favorite Saturday morning cartoon, The Real Ghostbusters. I'll be doing a video later this year honoring this cartoon. And one of the sources I'm going to use for that video is the visual history of the Real Ghostbusters. This is a great book to have if you're the fan of the Real Ghostbusters, which of course I am. Get a load of that art. I believe this was a promotional deal before the cartoon because they're busting Slimer, and we know in the cartoon that he's their friend. Look at the spine and the back. I love that picture. Yeah. I've been obsessed with this cartoon since I was a kid. Look at all that. And it's kind of hard to say why I love it so much. I guess it was a lot different from the cartoons I grew up watching, like the Smurfs and Gummy Bears, DuckTales. All of them are great cartoons, but there's just something about the Real Ghostbusters that stuck out. Yeah. As you can see, it has like the toys. I love these visual history books on popular shows or movies, because they really give you a lot of information that you probably wouldn't have been able to find even online. Oh, here's a sweet picture. That's Harold Ramis with his daughter. Yeah, Harold always had a great relationship with her. In fact, I remember when she passed away, this was around the time they were making that, female version. Violet, yeah, her name's Violet, mentioned that when the cartoon first came out, her friends were obsessed with it the way myself and my siblings were, but she personally hated it when it came out because Egon looked nothing like her dad, which is ironic considering that Harold Ramis even stated that his character looked the most like him of any of them. But anyway, she didn't want to see the cartoon and absolutely despise it because Egon looked nothing like her dad, and Harold had to tell her, it's okay, sweetie, it's not a big deal. So apparently he was cool with it. And in fact, I remember in a documentary he actually joked about the fact that Egon's a blonde. Yeah, it was like a likeness issue why they couldn't use the actors as faces. Yeah. Old Ivan Reitman, and who's that right there? I don't know who that is, but that's definitely Ivan Reitman. And there's Filmation's The Real Ghostbusters, the other cartoon that nobody really liked. Yeah, they had the access to the name first, but the Ghostbusters that we all know is very different from that cartoon. I did watch the live action as well as the animated version. Yeah, really nice art. And the issue I had with it is that, Ghostbusters, I tend to think of it as an action sci-fi, horror, even a little fantasy franchise with comedy here and there. Like, the comedy is usually more on how the characters react to the situations they're in. Usually the ghosts themselves were taken very seriously, even in this cartoon, and Filmation's Ghostbusters was more slapstick than anything else. I have nothing wrong with slapstick. I'm a huge Three Stooges fan. But it always felt more grown up to me that the more famous Ghostbusters is just regular guys trying to run a business. And they do joke a lot, and some of the ghosts are kind of silly. I mean, the Real Ghostbusters had an episode about a guy trying to get rid of all the chickens. He literally conjures up a demon to get rid of the chickens. I like that picture right there. And what I found funny about it is how the demon himself is not treated like a joke. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but I probably would know it later. But he had a great design, and he goes in not being a joke. He's a serious demon. And the moment he finds out that Cubby, the guy who wants to get rid of all the chickens, wants to get rid of all the chickens, the humor is that the demon's like, seriously? That's what you want? And Morgan, I believe his name is Morgan, and he never directly, he never directly gets rid of the chickens. He just says he gives Cubby the power to make anything disappear and reappear. And I really like that, and how he basically became a joke in hell among the demons that he got rid of all the chickens. Even though he didn't directly do it, he more or less did. It was very funny. He's like, I gave him a chance to be immortal and have all the riches in the world, and all he wanted was chickens! Just the way... It was that kind of humor is what made the Real Ghostbusters work. Here's the design of Janine before they changed her for later seasons. Oh wow, that's nice artwork. And Deterio, he was from that episode Ragnarok and Roll, which I think was shortly after the chicken he clucked episode. This is the one where the guy was a jilted lover who wanted to end the world. And I believe he's named after one of the writers, Larry Deterio. Yeah. Yeah, I know they have interviews with many of the writers, like J. Michael Straczynski, I believe Mike Reeves, or Matt Reeves, or it was one of them. Well, all the writers were interviewed with this. Yeah, I always loved the show. Peter with that lady from the Click Call of Cthulhu. And Darrow. I think her name was, or maybe I'm thinking of the lady from King Kong. Yeah, I remember like when seeing with Janine that when they decided to change Janine's character to be more mothery and not as sarcastic like she was in the movies, Straczynski objected to that change because he felt it was sexist. And that was one of the reasons why he stepped down for a while. And Winston right there, like, yeah, remember the network wanted Winston to be like the chauffeur of the Ghostbusters, and Straczynski once again thought that was racist of them. I don't agree with a lot of things that Straczynski has said and done in regards to politics, but I admit that the guy stuck by his principles, and I do think that is kind of a racist and sexist attitude among the higher ups. And I'm not one who throws that around lightly, and so, good for him. But I actually do kind of like this design of her, Maybe because I grew up primarily watching the later episodes where she looked like that, and had Calf Cersei. There's Lewis. Dana was never on the show, though she was in those Marvel comics that had the Real Ghostbusters reenact Ghostbusters 2. The Spectral Ghostbusters. I did a whole video on them. Really need to make more of my spooks of Ghostbusters. Yeah, this is a standard edition. The deluxe edition has extra bells and whistles like recreations of animation cells, but I never really been into stuff like that. I always prefer simple myself. The Ghostbusters 2 logo. I don't care what anyone says, that's a great movie. Officer Frump, and it's Murray the Mantis. Yeah, I watched this show a lot. Samhain, and that's Peter in his outfit from Halloween 2.5, I believe it was called. What? Mrs. Rogers' Neighborhood. Yeah, this book will be very valuable to anybody who loves the Real Ghostbusters, and I'm going to rely on this book heavily when I do research. It's very nice, like the Fright features action figures. I never really cared for these type of figures. I always just prefer the regular myself, but they're still cool though. Most of these figures I've never personally bought. Never had the room for them. Some just didn't really appeal to me. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the Real Ghostbusters had some of the most creative toys of all time, and funny thing is, most of these ghosts were never featured on the show. In fact, most of the stuff that was created for the figures was never featured on the show. So, that's a nice look for them. And so it was more like a cartoon that told great stories first, and like the toys were just a side thing. Yeah, 80s cartoons get a bad reputation of just being half-hour commercials for toys, but I think that's an overly simplistic way of looking at them. Peter's dad. Yeah, they were made to sell toys, but a lot of them were very well written, and there's a reason why they're remembered to this day. Like, I didn't grow up watching Transformers, but I have been watching, like, the original series, and I actually think I would have loved it if I had seen it as a kid. And G.I. Joe was another one, I think, that I didn't really watch as a kid, but I think it's well written, and Ecto Cooler, and it holds up pretty well. I've even been watching, like, He-Man, seeing the Ghostbusters 2. I thought it was going to be He-Man, where, yeah, they were trying to sell toys, but I watched a documentary behind the scenes of He-Man, and
it seemed like the people behind it really cared deeply about it. I wonder who is this guy right here. Oh, one of the vocalists. That anyway, like they really seem to care about quality of He-Man, at least in the writing. Like the animation, there was not much they could do, but for what it was still pretty decent. A lot of the writing was pretty intelligent, even though it was definitely made for little kids. But nothing wrong with that. Slimer. I know people didn't like Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters or the Slimer cartoons that featured Dweeb, but yeah, there's Dweeb right there. My siblings and I grew up watching it, and we loved it, like, no complaint. I can see how that won't be for everybody, but, you know, it entertained us, and I think that's all that really matters. Yeah, with any franchise, you're going to get stuff that some people like and some don't like. And to be fair, some of it is poor quality, but as long as somebody out there likes it, it did its job. Okay. Yeah, this was on the back of it because this book was wrapped up, but I prefer to keep it there. Yeah, this book is definitely not cheap. I got it on sale through Amazon for like $37, and a lot of the price range could be up to $50 or even $60. And the deluxe edition could be up to $100. So I highly recommend it if you're into the Real Ghostbusters.
Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later.